Today's video is going to be all about creating restful routines for you as a mother, because man, there is a level of fatigue you experience as a mom, especially during pregnancy and postpartum, that was like no other fatigue I've ever experienced. Just complete exhaustion. And I just think it is really, really important to find ways that we can find rest without having to rely on either your husband or a babysitter to come and watch your kids. I love having my kids around. I really, really enjoy my children and just love when we're all together. And so all of the things I'm going to be talking about today are things you do with your kids. And I love that because I don't want to have to rely on some outer person outside of our family in order for me to feel rested and recharged. And so maybe some of these things will be really helpful. Maybe you already do some of these things. Maybe you have some of your own methods that work really well that I don't mention in this video, that I don't do. So if you do, please share them because I want to hear about them. So a lot of these things I'm going to share today, I've mentioned in previous videos, but I'm tying these all together in habits that I do really consistently in order to feel rested and recharged, despite the fact that life is full for us in this amazing way, but it's very full. We are very active and there's a lot going on usually. So getting up before my kids, while it sounds like an oxymoron, is actually extremely restful for me. And so in seasons when I've been either in postpartum or first trimester, I will get up a lot later. But having a set time that my kids stay in their rooms and don't come out before, for me, has always been really, really helpful. Because then, even if I would sleep in until almost 7 o'clock, I knew as long as I got up before 7, my kids would still be in their rooms. And so that was really, really helpful during those seasons when I just couldn't make myself get out of bed earlier than that. But I also felt like I really needed a little bit of time to pray and read my Bible and like prepare the posture of my heart before my kids would get up. But usually getting up early for me and really engaging my mind and engaging my body with just moving around, drinking water, studying, whatever it is that I'm doing, I have found that energy begets energy. And so if I'm just kind of slouchy all day and never really make myself truly get going, I find that I'm just tired all day. So for myself, especially now that I'm out of the postpartum and first trimester season, I have found getting up early is actually really restful for me because it's a restful way I get to start my day rather than getting up and instantly having to like pull onto the highway of my children's needs and just taking care of my family. Also, I mentioned in one of my last videos, but during those seasons, especially when I did get up around the same time as my kids, or maybe I'm sick or something like that, so I'm getting up later, having the kids sit on the sofa with cozy blankets, make them some tea, make them a special drink, have them look at some books for just like 10 or 15 minutes is another really helpful way that you can kind of get your foot in the door for being a little bit ahead on your day before your kids are just, running around doing craziness and you just feel already like you're behind. So I found that it's really helpful too, and I would do that very, very consistently during those more challenging seasons where I was just a lot more tired. I was up at night with babies and such, in order to have a little bit more of a restful start to my day while still getting up around the same time as my kids. Also, creating morning bags can be really helpful for that as well. So a morning bag is just something you actually put together the night before that has maybe a coloring book, maybe some special art stuff in it, maybe a couple of their favorite books. You can make them some tea. You give each of your kids one of those bags and that keeps them occupied for a little while. Or just laying a blanket out in your living room and putting some toys on it for your kids to play with right when they first get up is kind of a way that you can just corral the craziness while you kind of get ready for your day and prepare a little bit. So that's been really helpful in different seasons when I haven't wanted to get up so early. Growing up, I watched my mom do this, and it's the reason why I do it now with all my kids. And that was that she would have us all take a quiet time from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. And now I do this as well with all my kids. So with my oldest daughter, she's 6. She hasn't actually napped in a couple of years. And so during that time, she looks at books, she does art stuff, she reads, she sews, she loves crafts, she listens to a lot of audio stories and a lot of read aloud books. And so it's a time when she is able to kind of have time by herself. And I think this is actually really helpful for kids. My little 2-year-old in particular, sometimes he'll just be so fussy and grouchy. And I'll finally just be like, you've got to take a little nap. Like, I don't know what is wrong with you. And I'll put him in his bed and come in there like 10 minutes later, expecting him to be asleep. And he'll be like perfectly happy again. It's like he just needed that little bit of a reset, which we understand, right? Us adults, we understand how sometimes you just need like a few minutes to yourself. And so I think it's actually really healthy for your kids to be able to have some time by themselves every day where they can just think, they can be creative, they can read, they can do their kind of own hobbies and crafts and all of that. And so that's what my 6-year-old does now, with story hours and crafts and such. And then my 4-year-old has just gotten to the point where now she only naps for about an hour. And so for the first hour, I let her do crafts in my room or drawing or coloring, something like that. And then I'll put her to bed for the second hour and she'll sleep, because if not, she's still pretty grouchy by the end of the day. And then my 2 little boys, they still sleep the solid 2 hours. So this can be a little tricky to get your kids on the same nap schedule, but it's very possible. So what I would do when I was first training my babies to sleep at this time is I would keep them awake after their morning nap until as close to about 1 o'clock as I possibly could. And then I would just pull the older kids' time back so that they might all go to bed more around like 12:45 or maybe 12:30, just starting out. And then they all wake up, a little bit earlier. But that worked until I was able to adjust the baby schedule over enough where the baby's second nap of the day lined up with my older kids' one nap of the day, and so that they're all going down at the same time. It is such a lifesaver, especially when you're pregnant and you're really, really exhausted and you cannot stay awake the entire day having to watch children the whole time. It's really, really helpful knowing that if you can just survive until you reach that 1 o'clock time, that you can then nap for 2 hours or an hour and a half or whatever you need in order to get through the rest of your day. It was just so helpful. It made it so I didn't have to rely on having my mom come over all the time, or my mother-in-law, or having to have my husband home from work or whatever it was. So that's really, really helpful. If you can do that, it is so life-saving, and it is such a way to rest. And so now that I have more energy, I still always have that as an option of a time I could take a nap if I need to. Or, if the kids are sick and so I am up at night, and I'm really exhausted the next day, I know if I have to, I can take a little nap in the afternoon. This is also a time when I don't do this every day, but typically on the days my husband is on shift, he's a fireman, so his schedule is a 48-hour shift. So on the days that he's working, I've found that sitting down and just reading for the last 15 minutes of the quiet time, even if I've been working the whole time before that, before my kids get up, just really mentally recharges me, where I feel so rested. So it's really helpful. The next thing is putting your kids to bed before you're going to sleep. And sometimes the way to adjust your kids' bedtime is to start making dinner earlier, because then you're just naturally getting through the rest of your evening routine earlier in the evening. And so your kids can go to bed and you have some time after that where you're not just instantly going from 100 miles per hour throughout your entire day to just falling into bed at night completely fatigued, having no energy left to exert into your marriage, let's just say. So I put my little boys typically to bed around 8 o'clock, and then my little girls will go down usually between 8 to maybe 8:45, depending on if they're hanging out with daddy when he's home, because that is their all-time favorite thing to do ever. So that gives me still from then until when I want to go to bed. I already have the house cleaned up. I kind of talked about that in the straightening video. And so I take a bath almost every single night. Light candles, take a bath, let your hair down, just relax. relax your sore muscles. And just having little things like that you do every day makes your life feel so much more rested and refreshed, rather than you just feeling like you're running ragged all the time. And it's so hard to just continually give if you're not being recharged. And so spending time with the Lord in the morning, having a good morning routine where you are being refreshed by Him is like the number one thing. But then having those times throughout your day when you are able to rest if you need to, especially in those early years when you have babies and you're pregnant and you're just really, really tired. Like it's a hard season. I know. I've been there many, many times now. So that's really, really helpful. Also for myself, after 9 o'clock in the evening, I don't use my phone at all except to text my husband if he's working or to have music playing. And so this actually creates a restful evening. If you're going immediately from being on your phone to trying to go to sleep, it's just not restful. Being on your phone cannot count as a time where you're resting and recharging. So during nap time, like it's not a time I want to be spending just scrolling the whole time. After my kids are in bed, it's not a time I want to spend scrolling. It's just, it makes it so your mind cannot rest, and so you never truly feel refreshed. So I really encourage you to set some type of a guideline where at some point in your day you have like no phone times, where you're actually able to rest your mind and you're able to read, you're able to write, whatever it is you enjoy doing that is not consuming or that's not like digital technology type stuff. So another thing that's just kind of personal, but having little areas of your house that you keep straightened and nice, like my bedroom is one of these where I don't really like my kids playing in our room. And so no matter how chaotic the rest of the house might be, I can walk into my room to put away laundry in the middle of the day and see my room straightened and nice and my bed made, and something about it is really refreshing and recharging. So having little spaces in your home that just bring you joy when you look at them, despite whatever is taking place around you, or whatever amount of toys are in your living room or chaos is in your eardrums, is just really restful and just provides this sense of peace amongst the chaos of kids, which is both fun and also like it can be a lot sometimes. Those are the things I do every day that I personally find really, really helpful and that just make my days feel more restful. The next thing that I do though is every week on Sunday, it's my rest day. And so this is a day I like to treat this absolutely amazing gift that I have of being able to raise my family and my children and love them and love my husband. I try and take this very seriously. But just like any type of a job, sometimes you need days off. And so Sunday is my day off, so to speak. And so on Saturday nights, depending on how far away your church is, if you go to church, which I encourage you to, in order to make your morning restful, what I do is I set out my kids' clothes the night before. Sometimes I'll pack the diaper bag the night before. Back at our old church that we went to a couple of years ago, it was about an hour drive, so we had to leave by 9 o'clock in the morning. And so I set out, like I would set out all my clothes, all my kids' clothes. I would set the crock pot for lunch. I would have a breakfast prepped. Like I was really serious about this because I wanted Sunday to go as smoothly as possible. So now we don't have such a long drive, so I don't have to be quite as serious about this. But I still set out the kids' clothes. I set out my clothes, have their shoes in a place where I know where they're at. Pack the diaper bag if that's helpful, have a simple breakfast planned out from the night before, and try to have a plan for lunch. Typically, it'll be dinner from Saturday night. We'll just have it for lunch, or we'll have something really simple like tomato soup or something like that. And so then Sunday morning, I sleep in until my kids get up, which is so nice. It's great having like one day of the week that's like, this is my sleep-in day. So my husband and I sleep until the kids get up on Sundays. And then really all I'm doing throughout my day is the bare minimums. So I do the dishes, I do pick up the house, and I cook. That's pretty much all I do on Sundays typically. And it's so nice because then Sunday afternoon after lunchtime, I take a nap typically, or I read for the 2 hours my kids are doing their quiet time. And it's so refreshing and recharging. And then for dinner, I'll usually do something in the crock pot or a really simple dinner, or we just started having my daughters cook dinner on Sunday nights sometimes. And it's been really sweet. They've done it a couple times so far. and they'll do like spaghetti or something just really simple. And all I'm doing is pretty much cleaning up the kitchen while they do it. And so it feels still fairly easy for me. And so having a day that you kind of just take off every week, where you're like, I'm not doing fancy meals this night. We're doing simple things. I'm doing the bare minimum of what we need in order to start the next day and not feel super far behind. And my focus is on resting, and I don't use my phone on Sunday except to text people. Having a day like that every week for you as a mom is so important. And basically any other job, you get at least one day off a week, right? And so having a day off where you can just delight in your family and focus on them and focus on resting is so helpful. So I really encourage that. And the crazy thing that I've found is that when I am rested and I take a day of rest, I'm actually so much more productive all the other days because I'm recharged, I have motivation again, I've come up above the fog of life to make sure I'm even aiming in the right direction that we want to go in. Create rest that you can do with your children around, that you don't have to rely on somebody else in order for you to rest, take a nap, take a bath, whatever it is. And then have a day a week where you kind of take it just completely off. And your focus is your family and your focus is your rest. And it's resting your mind and doing things that are restful for you. Reading, whatever that is, artwork, music, whatever it is that you find personally recharging and restful. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know what you do to rest down below.